All right, so while you guys are writing this down, let me read what your textbook says. I don't want you guys to write everything down that's written in the textbook. We just need the numbers for today. It says a photographer hiked through the Grand Canyon. Each day she stored photos on a memory card for her digital camera. When she returned from the trip, she deleted some photos from each memory card, saving only the best. The table shows the number of photos she kept of all those stored on each memory card. Use a graphing calculator to create a scatter plot of the data, then find the linear regression model to graph the model. Then use the model to predict the number of photos the photographer will keep if she takes 150 photos. So let's write that down. So we need to make a prediction, and I said this is what we use math for in the real world. So the question is basically if she takes 150 photos, how many will she keep? What's that?
Do we have to write that down?
Yep. If I write it down, you guys should write it down. How many will she keep? So there's an assumption that maybe like a percentage or, you know, probably the best way to word it is a percentage or ratio. She keeps a certain percentage, right? That's what I love about digital cameras. You guys have only known digital cameras your whole life. It used to be you'd have a roll of film, and you wouldn't know until the film was developed if the pictures were good or not. Now you can. I take photos all the time on my phone, and I'll just take like 20 of them, and then you go, oh, this is a good one. I'll keep this one. So I'll give you a second to finish writing that down. And then so basically what we're going to do is we're going to plug this data into the calculator, and the calculator will plot it for us, okay? And then it should, because it says linear regression, it should look like a line, and then we're going to try to figure out the y equals mx plus b stuff. And then we're going to use that equation and calculate what happens if you plug in 150, okay? Does that make sense? All right, turn your calculators on if you have this stuff written down. The first thing we're going to need to do is click y equals and clear all that stuff out. So let's just clear this out. Let's clear this out, okay? Does everybody have those cleared out? All right, go to second quit. And then hit clear out that screen. On a side note, I noticed that, and it's probably not you guys, the 8th graders think it's funny. Somebody put on there, I liked your mom, and left it on the calculator. If somebody put something silly on the calculator, just clear it out. The 8th graders read it, and they're like, one was about SpongeBob or something. If somebody does that, just clear it out. If it happens a lot, let me know. Anyways. What we want to do is, see this button here that says staff? You see this button right here that says staff? If you click on that, you'll get this screen where it says edit. Now your calculator has a list, and we're going to enter in these values from the list. So I'm going to minimize my calculator a little bit so I can see it. So when you get to edit, just hit enter. So now in L1, what you guys want to do is you want to enter these numbers here. So I'm just going to say 117, hit enter, 128, hit enter, and I'm just going to do that first column. Okay.
Wait, you're going a little bit too fast. I don't know how you got there.
I'm still at like edit calculator.
So you hit the stat button. See this button here? Hit that button,
yeah.
And then you'll get a screen that looks like this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now hit enter.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then just start putting the numbers in from the column. And if you guys, don't let me, thank you for interrupting me and letting me know that I was going too fast. If I do that again, let me know, because I want you guys to kind of be in sync with what I'm doing on the screen. Okay? I don't want you to get lost or confused. So now, once you enter those in, if you hit the right cursor, it takes you to L2, and you could enter in the second column. So I'm going to say 25, 31, and I'm just going to enter those numbers from the second column. Mr. Adams has to remember that some of you guys are doing this for the first time. Meanwhile, I've been doing this for years. Sort of. Okay. Double check your list. Make sure you have all the information. Now, we're going to have to do some stuff. One, we have to tell the calculator that we want it to do a scatter plot. Okay. So we're going to, do you see the button, the y equals button? You see the what's printed in blue above that? Stat plot. So we're going to hit second and then y equals, and you'll get a screen like this. So second and then y equals, you should get a screen like that. Okay. Now, if you notice, all of those plots are turned off. Yes?
I didn't get all the things on the list.
Oh, I'll wait for you. Go ahead and enter the numbers on the list. So I'll just wait.
All right, got it.
Okay, so did you hit second y equals?
Yeah.
Okay, and you got this stuff? Do you have your hand up, or are you just stretching? Just stretching, okay. So now what I'm going to do is I can plot four sets of data on the calculator, all right? So notice that they're all turned off. You could turn them all off or turn them all on. I'm just going to turn on plot one. So hit enter and see how on is flashing like that. Just hit enter one time. And then this tells you the different types of graphs. We want to do a scatter plot. That's the first option. So hit enter again, and it'll bounce down. Then you can hit the cursor. What do I want for my x values? If you notice in that list it said L1. By default, L1 is always the x value, and L2 is always the y value. If I wanted to plot multiple things, I could change that to L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. I could do all that stuff, okay? But by default, it's this. If I go down here, this just tells me what am I going to put. If I do an open circle, I can put an open circle. I could do a little mark like that. I could do a mark like this. I just leave it as default. And then I could change the color if I want to. I'm going to make my little points blue. Now I'll hit enter. And when you hit enter, that's it. It's done. That plot is set up. The problem is when I hit graph, it might not show. So I need to go to zoom. So click on zoom. You'll get a thing like this. Now there's a function in the calculator called zoom stat. Do you see that at the bottom of the list? That says number 9. What that does is it sets the calculator to a window that'll show all the points that we just plugged in. So if you choose, you could either hit the number 9 or scroll down. I'm going to hit the number 9. And there you go. Those are the points that I just plotted. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take I'll take the screenshot. No, I'll take a screenshot. No, I'll wait until we're done graphing. So as you look at that, doesn't that kind of look like a straight line, sort of? Okay. So what we want to do is we're going to let the calculator kind of approximate. We're trying to find an equation, a linear equation that kind of fits through the middle of the data. And that'll help us to make a prediction, okay? So what we want to do is now we're going to calculate something. So hit stat again, and you'll get that screen. What are our options up there? We have edit, calc, and test, right? We're going to do some calculating. So go ahead and use your right cursor to where it says calculate. Now, the book asks us to do a linear regression.
By the way, if you don't remember how to do a linear regression on the calculator, if you go to my YouTube channel and type in TI calculator linear regression, I have a separate video that's all it does is show you how to do this. Okay. But if you scroll down here to option number 4, that's linear regression. It words it a little different. You guys are used to seeing linear equations as mx plus b, but actually a lot of math textbooks nowadays say ax plus b. So the a is the slope, and b would be is the y-intercept. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to ask me some questions. It says, hey, what do you want us to use for your x values? What is the domain? Well, it's L1, right? List number 1, that first column. L2, and then the frequency list, that's more for statistical information. Go down here, use the down cursor until it goes to store the equation. Now, we're going to put some information. Yes? You're confused? Okay, so let's go back. So if I go to stat, it's the stat button. You see what I have on the screen? Hit the right cursor over 1, and you'll have a list of things. We want option number 4, which is linear regression. Do you see that on your screen? Hit enter, and then you'll get this. So we're going to tell the domain is L1, the domain is L2. Move the cursor down to store regular equation. So when I'm done with this, at the bottom there it says calculate. So at some point I'm going to say go to the calculator. And that calculator is going to calculate the equation of the line that fits through the middle of that data and does some fancy math. You have to take a statistics class to learn how it does the math, but the calculator does it for you. But I want to store that equation in y equals 1, and I want to graph it. I want to see it. So what I'm going to do is, see this thing where it says vars? We say vars, but really what it's short for is variables. So click, do you guys find the button vars?
Yep.
Does everybody see it? Vars?
Yep. Okay,
click on vars. Now that means variables, and this is going to give us some options. Y1, Y2, Y3, those are the Y variables in the calculator. So I'm going to hit the right cursor and go to Y vars. Now, the first option, function, we want to store this as a function. So you're going to hit function, hit enter. What function do you guys want to store this in? Y1. Now, if you wanted to put it in Y7, you just simply scroll down. So you could store multiple functions in the calculator. Most of the time, though, you're just going to do one thing at a time. So click Y1, and you'll get a thing like this. And you can confirm this before you hit enter, right? So what this is telling the calculator, go ahead and calculate the line of regression, and I want you to store that equation in Y1, in the Y equals, so we can look at the graph. So hit enter again, and it'll say calculate. Now when I hit enter again, it's going to do everything. Ready? Boom. Now that is my equation. The slope is 0.33, all that other stuff. My y-intercept occurs at -11. Okay? Now, if I hit enter again, that's it, we're done. Now go and click on y equals. Notice that it stored that information in the equation. Now it went several decimal places, but here's my a value, and then this is the beginning of my b value. Now, what I want to do is, do me a favor, hit the left cursor to right there. See the color blue? I'm going to hit the enter button, and what that'll do is it'll let me change the color. I'm going to change that to red, because I want my points to be blue and I want the line to be red. I don't know why. Then scroll down and hit OK. Maybe because I can. Hit graph. There it is. So now I'm going to take a screenshot. Yep. So try to sketch this as best you can. I'll put that in the... So what was the question, though, that the book wanted us to figure out? Yep. So if she takes 150 photos, how many will she keep? So right now, the greatest value we have stored in the X directory is 188, right? Let's try to get something close to 150. So here she has 157 photos. She keeps 52, right? Here she has a little bit more, 170, and she keeps 42. So if I were to guess, she's going to keep between 52 and 42 photos. If I were to guess, I could be a little more precise. I'm going to find that point on the line. Are you guys ready to do that? I'll give you a couple more seconds. You guys are sketching things out. So from the calculator, and I'm going to zoom in on this. Do you remember what function I hit to find out stuff on the graph? Does anybody remember? To find out the X and Y values on the graph, there's a button I hit. How about trace? Do you guys remember that? Hit the trace button. And the trace button, now because I have something plotted, and now because I have a line, I have to tell the calculator which thing I want to look at. So if I hit the up button, watch this. If I hit the up button, boom, now I'm on the red line. See how this changes to red? What the calculator is telling me is like, whatever you do, we're only going to focus on Y1. If I hit up again, it toggles back and forth. Now we're going to deal with plot 1. If I hit up again, it'll just toggle back and forth, okay? So if I hit down and I go to the left, it's just going to, I have to hit enter. If I hit enter, it just kind of zooms in on that point, okay? If I hit trace again and I toggle up, it'll go back and forth. I made a mistake, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to hit zoom stat, zoom back out. So what I really want to do is I'm going to hit trace, and I'm going to toggle till I'm on the red line. Now I'm going to enter in 150, because what I really want to know is, on that red line, when x equals 150, what is the corresponding y value, right? If I plug that thing into this big, long equation, in other words, if I say 0.33097042995198 times 150 minus 11.325 blah, 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 what does that equal? And the calculator will tell me. So hit enter. Boom. It equals about 38. 38.31. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that. You're lost. I'll go over it again real quick. Let me take the screenshot. Where did we lose you? All right, we'll do it again one more time, okay?
How did you get the Y set up there?
Okay. Let's do it again together, okay? So hit trace. Are you on the graph?
Yeah, I'm on trace.
Okay. Is that, see this little cursor? Is it on a box or is it on the?
It's on right.
Okay. If I, watch this, if I hit up. If I hit up again, what it does is it just toggles back and forth. I want to be on the red line. Okay? We're in trace mode because I hit trace. So now, anytime I plug in a number, it'll assign that to the x value and find the corresponding y value. So if I plug in 150, what I'm telling the calculator is when x equals 150, tell me where I am on y1. Where am I on that graph?
How do you type it on there? X equals 150. How do you get it?
It just automatically just hit 150. Once you're in trace mode, you just type in 150.
Oh, okay.
And it'll automatically pull that up. Did you get it? And then it's telling me that the y value. So now let me, did everybody get that on their calculator? Yeah? Okay, good. So what does this mean? I'm going to slide this over this one because it's a little bit better graph. Actually, I could probably get rid of this. Okay, what is that telling me? What that's telling me is that according to this, I have a function. Okay, my function is really y1. And when I plug in x equals 150, when I plug that into my function, it's going to do this math thing where it's going to take 0.33, multiply it by x, and then subtract 11 from it. And the output that it's going to give me is going to equal 38.3. What does that mean? She will keep about, or if you're from Canada, about 38 photos. You could say 38 or 39. Right? She's not going to keep 38.3. She's either going to keep 38 or 39. Does that make sense? Okay. And that's how they know how many pairs of shoes to keep on the shelf. That's how they know how many pairs of pants. Right? I might find a store that's in Chicago that sells tons of shoes. They sell way more shoes. If I plot Chicago's data, it's going to be over here, right? They sell way more stuff. And then I might find a little small town like Bridgman, Michigan, and they sell not as much stuff. And then from that information, I can predict how much stuff I need to keep in my South Bend store. I make the equation, I plug in some numbers, and that's how I make the prediction. Okay? Any questions on what we did today? I probably should talk about the domain and range. Let's look at the domain real quick. So for the domain, what's the lowest value here for the x values? Is it 110? And I think the highest is going to be 188. And then for the range, the lowest value is 21, and then the greatest value is actually 52, right? So I could write this down. The textbook says to do that. So then the domain x is such that it's between 110 and 188. And then the range uh, 21. Okay. Does that make sense? How do you guys feel about that? Thumbs up if that makes sense. Thumbs down. Okay. What's the part that you're, the whole thing in general, the process?
Yeah.
The calculator stuff? Okay, good, good. It's same thing like learning this stuff. We just keep plugging away at it. The more, by the time we're, by the way, it's the beginning of